Koh Lipe is a small, beautiful island right at the south of Thailand, close to the border with Malaysia. I recently got back after spending a week during Songkran there, and honestly, Koh Lipe is one of my favourite islands in Thailand. Don't get me wrong, most islands in Thailand are pretty beautiful, but this one really stands out to me. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything I wish I'd known about places to stay, the different beaches, snorkeling, diving, and other things to do in Koh Lipe. At the same time, I also got some really beautiful footage that'll show you just how nice of a place Koh Lipe is. So, let's begin. First of all, let's talk about how to get there. Well, there are a number of different ways to get there. Probably the easiest way though is to fly into Pattaya, and either from the airport or from the city, you can easily catch a bus. They'll take you to Pattaya port. The drive itself should cost you about 600 to 700 baht and take about an hour and a half, but it's a really beautiful drive on the way down there. From there, you should get a speedboat to Koh Lipe Island, and this will take you about an hour and a half and cost you another 700 to 800 baht. It is possible to get a boat directly from Phuket or Koh Lipe. However, the times will be much longer, taking about 7 to 8 hours. Now let's talk about the beaches. Now there are 3 main beaches in Koh Lipe, and they are Pattaya Beach, Sunrise Beach, and Sunset Beach. The first one that you'll arrive at will probably be Pattaya Beach, and as you can see, this is where most of the boats on the island dock. Now there's a lot to like about this beach. You've probably noticed that the sand is really soft as soon as you step off onto it, and it looks really beautiful with all these long-tail boats docked there at the end. One thing to note though is that it's not the best place to go swimming. As you can see, there's a lot of coral really near the coast. This makes it not ideal to swim in, especially at low tide, because you might bang your legs or hurt your feet. On top of that, the water's not the cleanest. We notice a lot of runoff from the island, so this is where a lot of dirt and rubbish will flow into, making the water pretty dirty. Add on to that all the fumes from the boats, making the water not the cleanest to swim in. One of the advantages of staying here though is that there's plenty of bars and restaurants nearby. So many people do choose to stay here, and they do seem to really enjoy it. The biggest beach on the island, and the one that I'd probably try and stay on if I were to go back, is Sunrise Beach. Well, why would I stay here? Well, first of all, as you can see here, the coral is a little bit further out, making this a little bit easier to swim in. However, if you do want to swim out, then you can still go check out the coral when you're snorkeling, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a minute. In addition to that, there's a couple of less hotels and restaurants, but I did like the vibe of these places a little bit more. They had a much more laid-back beach shack vibe, and were a little bit more reasonably priced than those on Pattaya Beach. The final major beach is Sunset Beach. As the name suggests, this is a great place to watch the sunset. It's a much shorter beach with much less on it. There's not really many bars or restaurants, but there are a handful of hotels nearby. So if you're looking to stay on a quieter beach with more nature, this is the beach for you. When I stayed there, I actually stayed in none of these beaches. I stayed on a much smaller beach in a hotel called Pitiusas, which was near Sunset Beach. Now the advantage of this is I pretty much had a private beach to myself, which you can see here. And this place was really beautiful. You had great views of the beach and Koh Adang in the distance. The place was pretty basic, but for the sake of having a private beach to ourselves, I think it was worth it. If this sounds like something you would like, take a look at some of the smaller beaches that are dotted around the island and some of the accommodation that's located there. I imagine there'll be some really great hotels if you go look for it. Now I want to talk about what makes this island really special. Well, the number one thing is the snorkeling. Koh Lipe had the best snorkeling that I've ever seen, just directly off the main beaches. On the smaller beach that we stayed on, you literally only had to wade about 3 or 4 meters into the water, and there was some of the best snorkeling you've ever seen in your life. We also went diving during this trip, which I'll get to in a minute, but a lot of the things that we saw diving were easily accessible and easily viewable from the beach. You can see here that we saw all these different kinds of fish just a few meters from the main island. In other places in Thailand, you might have to pay to do a boat trip to some of these snorkeling sites, but not in Koh Lipe. All of these spots were found just a few meters swim away from the main island. One thing I might be careful of if I was swimming here, watch out for sea anemones. There's quite a lot around and they're quite venomous. If you get stung by one of these, it'll quickly ruin your holiday. Dive sites that you can see here include Stonehenge, Koh Yang, Koh Pung, Sail Rock and 8 Mile Rock. Some of these dive sites are more advanced than others. Koh Yang, for example, is easily accessible for beginners, whereas 8 Mile Rock is more for advanced divers, as you'll be going beyond 18 meters deep. The Andaman Sea is a fantastic place to dive. Compared with the Gulf of Thailand on the east coast of Thailand, the wildlife here is a bit more diverse, as are the coral reefs. For example, this was the first time that I ever saw soft coral, which you can see moving around here. And you're just able to see a lot more different fish than you're able to see on the Gulf of Thailand, even though the Gulf of Thailand has some pretty good diving too. One thing to note though, at times there was quite a strong current. On the final dive of the week at Sail Rock, I ended up getting blown away, and it got a little dicey for a second, and in the end there was no major problems. However, if you're a less confident diver, you might want to speak with your dive instructor before taking a dive at Koh Lipe, just to see what the conditions might be like. What we were also hoping to see but didn't get to on this day were whale sharks, leopard sharks and manta rays, which have also been spotted at these dive sites. However, unfortunately, on this day we didn't get to see any. These pictures here were all shot at Sail Rock by a professional underwater photographer. She worked with the dive company Koh Lipe Diving, and at the end of the day we had the option to buy these photos. And that's about all I've got for this video. Other activities that you can do on the island are rent a longtail boat to go to some of the islands dotted around near Koh Lipe. You can also take a trip over to Koh Adang and go hiking on a mountain there. And Tarutao National Park is nearby, which is another small island that you can go and explore. Otherwise, the same as usual, you can eat and drink to your heart's content while on the island of Koh Lipe. If you've enjoyed this video or found it useful, you'd really help me out if you could like and subscribe. I plan on making more videos like this in the future, showing the natural beauty of other places in Thailand and Southeast Asia. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Jack Taylor, and goodbye.